I don't want these people to touch Lord of the Rings anymore. Can we make them stop? I mean, please. I don't know if you guys watched War of the Rohirrim, but it was one of the worst bastardizations of Lord of the Rings I could have possibly imagined. And I've seen Rings of Power, and it was so much worse than that. These people should not be allowed to sully Tolkien's name. The fact that Tolkien's estate exists, and apparently I'm hearing rumors that they're making a Tolkien Lord of the Rings theme park. Oh my gosh, this is just... Oh, so painful. Let's get into this news, and we'll get to the story that Philippa Boyens wants to adapt, and hopefully they won't give it to her in just a moment. So please hit the like and subscribe button. Join us here as we talk about the real fantasy news, guys. This is the right place to be. We do not shill for mainstream entertainment. In fact, we know when they're doing wrong, and we call them on it because I'm not... influenced by them. I don't get any deals. They don't give me books like other fantasy news purveyors out there to try to shill for them. This is a great spot to be. So I appreciate you guys being here as we talk about all things, especially when it comes to stuff like Lord of the Rings, which is so super important to the culture overall and history. And join us here. And I am a fantasy author myself. I don't pretend this is anywhere near Lord of the Rings or anything like that. But The Demon's Eye is a classic sword and sorcery. It's got a strong male lead. It's got Christian elements. It's got a evil that he has to face as a reluctant hero. You're going to love this if you like classic fantasy, I think. So put it in the description below. And guys, it's available on print and Kindle. Check it out today. Read it. Thank you so much for being here and for reading. I really appreciate you guys for checking things out. So Philippa Boyens, one of the screenwriters on Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy, as well as the producer of the animated War of the Rohirrim film, revealed which Tolkien story she would like to be her ideal to adapt. So come back in December, while promoting War of the Rohirrim, she spoke with Collider when she was asked what her ideal Tolkien story would be to adapt if she had no restrictions. And oh boy. And she loves the story of Lúthien and Beren in the Silmarillion. And also, there are threads of it, obviously in Lord of the Rings, but you have Aragorn and Arwen, which is a beautiful love story. But before that, there was Lúthien and Beren. Now, this is actually a love story here. And of course, she wants to extrapolate this out, which they did quite a bit in the Peter Jackson trilogy. That was one of the things that they pulled out that really wasn't so much explicit in the books, but it was much bigger in the actual movie there, which I think was a kind of a detriment to the movie because the books were perfect, let's be honest. Also, it's an earlier age. It's kind of more mythic age. You've got some serious monsters. I love monsters that you could bring into that kind of storytelling, but also it's such an incredible character, the character of Lúthien, and so there's some of her DNA, obviously, in Arwen and Galadriel. Oh, boy. And even in these human characters, I think that the courage to go and face down the thing you're most terrified of, she's concluded. While Boyens shared a story of Lúthien and Beren would be her ideal story to adapt, she's previously teased that other stories that she and her team at Warner Brothers were looking at adapting, which please stop, Amazon. Please. Can I pay Amazon to not adapt these? I mean, I think I would pay a subscription fee. What do you think? What is the amount you'd pay per month? Leave this in the description for Amazon to not adapt. I think I would pay Amazon $10 a month for them to not adapt any Lord of the Rings stuff anymore. And so how much would that mean to them? What are they getting revenue wise right now? So maybe we'd need 10,000 people at $100,000 at $10 a month. That would be $100,000. I think maybe $20,000 a month. I would toy with going up to 20. I think. Back in February 2024, she spoke with Nerd of the Rings and briefly discussed Angmar, a war between the Witch King and Angmar and the Men of Arnor. But she said a story with dragons was at the top of her list, of course. That's what they want to do. She said there's some others in there, this one in particular, because everyone thinks dragons are very heated, hot, and fiery. There you go. There's a hint. Let's see if anyone gets what I'm meaning, because there's other types of dragons out there. After Nerd of the Rings states there are wars involving dragons, she responded yes or no, not necessarily wars involving dragons. There are other types of worms, she says. She added, I always thought it's interesting, and I thought not outside of the world or the precursors to the Rohirrim. I've always thought that it was an interesting story and very Tolkien. Boyens is likely talking about the War of the Dwarves and Dragons that took place between TA 2570 to 2589. And the war drove Durin's folk from the Grey Mountains to the Lonely Mountains. In Appendix B, Tolkien detailed that in TA 2570. About this time, the dragons reappear in the far north and begin to afflict the dwarves. In fact, Dane ends up being slain by a dragon. And while those are things she and her team are exploring, they're working on the Hunt for Golem film, which is being directed by Andy Serkis, who is also expected to reprise his role as Golem. I really, really hope they don't just screw this up because, and I don't have much hope because this is something that like is a beloved character that people really know at this point. I think they did it great in the Peter Jackson films. I don't really think it needs to be extrapolated on, to be honest, in its own film. But here we go. This is what's happening. There is also a second film in the work, which is originally believed a continuation of The Hunt for Golem, but Boyens clarified in October that it's a second project. And this is really the problem that Amazon has going on. They like get the rights to this stuff, and it's like, let's do like 20, 50 different projects. They're even doing it with The Boys, which is a superhero property, which they're doing multiple spin-offs of, because it's like they want to extract and squeeze out every last possible cent out of people who might be interested in these things before they actually just bury these projects alive. And it is buried alive because by the time they get done with it, nobody is interested in this anymore. You see this with Rings of Power and War of the Rohirrim and their failures to get generated audiences already. I really think that with Peter Jackson's screwing up of The Hobbit, which was a real bummer that they did things on that level, that was really the first domino to fall on that level. And then once people tuned into Rings of Power Season 1, it was like, this isn't Lord of the Rings anymore. And I expect this is going to be much more of the same just based on the people working on this. It's very odd that all of these properties get taken over by women. Star Wars, of course, is a big one on that front, and then it goes sideways. Kind of odd that. I'm just noticing things. A number of Tolkien enthusiasts might have been excited to see an adaptation of Lúthien and Beren back in December. However, following the release of War of the Rohirrim, coupled with the brand damage inflicted by Prime Video's Rings of Power, the excitement has waned. But it might be for the best, as the story remains untainted by creators and producers who seek to project their own agendas onto Tolkien's work, and that's the main problem here, and what seems to be an effort to malign and destroy it. And that's what I think is happening a lot with this Hollywood stuff. You have massive ubers with these people. They all work on properties that are not theirs. They always work on Marvel or Star Wars or Star Trek or whatever it is, and they know that they didn't create it, and so they have this kind of like imposter syndrome going on with the situation where they want to leave their mark. They want to make sure that they're remembered forever, and so they try to twist and change things so that they make it, quote, their own, rather than trying to actually just do honor to the lore. I did a video earlier today about a new short story that's out by Richard Fox. It's called We Are Brothers. We Were Brothers, sorry, in the Warhammer 40k universe. And while Warhammer 40k is not Tolkien by any means, it steals a lot from Tolkien. That's another story I could rant about for a long, long time. But it's got its own lore structure and all that, and in recent months, they've actually really screwed up on that level and not done that very well. Richard Fox came into this, and Richard Fox is an actual fan of Warhammer 40k who knows what he's talking about. I read this short story this morning, and he drills into the lore so hard, it feels correct. When somebody's actually doing honor for it and not trying to just make their own spin on things and actually trying to actually curate the property properly, they do a great job, and this is exactly what we see here. Unfortunately, they never hire people like that for these bigger properties like Lord of the Rings for whatever reason. I don't know why they wouldn't do it, but hey, your guess is as good as mine. And maybe Hollywood intentionally is trying to destroy these properties, and that's why these people get hired. Regardless, I'm not excited to see any of this stuff. I am very tepid about it. The Hunt for Golem I don't see going well, and I hope that these people get yeeted out of the Lord of the Rings sort of mythos sooner rather than later. And I hope this theme park rumor, have you heard about this, guys, is not real. I'm researching into it right now, and if it is real, we'll have a video about it tomorrow. Leave a comment down below with what you think about this. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Stay here, my friends. Grab The Demon's Eye for some classic sword and sorcery fantasy. I wrote my own world, which is beautiful. I think you'll like it. Check it in the description below. It's available on Kindle and on paperback. And thanks for being here.